right. Well, I will go ahead and get us started. So good evening, everyone. Welcome to joining us for the Monday night evening speaker series. We do this every single Monday, 7 to 8:30 p.m., where we bring in a variety of amazing speakers to talk about different elements that can impact your job search, career planning, and just whatever you're kind of looking for next. My name is Laura Kupsel, and I'm the Director of Speaker Engagements. You'll see me here every Monday night leading this series. So as you know, 40 Plus of Greater Washington is a 70-year-old nonprofit organization, and our mission is to help experienced professionals know and confidently communicate their value in securing a new position or changing careers. As many of you already know, we do this through a range of programs like this evening's speaker series. And if you're looking for a way to keep your skills sharp, enhance your resume, you can also consider volunteering here at 40 Plus of Greater Washington. There are many opportunities, and we certainly would appreciate your help. If you're interested, please check out the support tab on the 40 Plus website, and there's a little form you can fill out, and we can get you connected to some opportunities. Occasionally, we receive and post job announcements from regional job centers who see 40 Plus as a valuable recruitment source. I would urge you to periodically check out the career portal on the 40 Plus website as well to see if you see any good opportunities there. And finally, if you want to check out previous sessions or be alerted whenever we post new content, please like and subscribe and tap that notification bell on our YouTube channel where we share really fresh content. We pull some of the nice bits out of our past sessions so that you can really get some awesome refreshed materials as well as some new content. So next week, February 12th, we will have a session with Tegan Bartos of Jolt Your Career with Tegan Bartos called Overcoming Age Discrimination with the Modern Brand. So if that is of interest to you, I highly recommend getting registered, put it on your calendar, same place, same time, February 12th. So now that some of those announcements are done, I'd like to welcome this evening's presenter, Heather Pressler. Dr. Heather Pressler is the CEO and founder of digital marketing agency Blue Hookey Group, which is based in the DC area. Heather boasts a unique technology and scientific background from her time as an undergraduate at MIT, doctorate from Johns Hopkins, and working in renowned research laboratories all around the world. Her first career pivot was into pharmaceutical and medical device sales, where she was consistently a top performer. The secret to her success was helping clients learn more about the latest trends in social media and marketing to build their businesses. However, they all struggled to find trusted marketing agencies that could communicate persuasively on highly technical topics and execute reliably. So when Heather made her second career pivot and started an agency, she vowed to focus on what matters most: return on investment marketing, strategies, and providing value. Along the way, Heather learned very valuable lessons, not only in marketing, but also in building professional brands to succeed online. So without further ado, I am so excited to pass this over to the amazing Dr. Heather Pressler.
Good evening, everybody. Nice to see you tonight. I'm going to put my contact information, LinkedIn in the chat. Please feel free to reach out to me, connect with me on LinkedIn. That would be great. And I will share our presentation. So for our presentation tonight, please feel free to ask questions, stop me. If you use the little raise the hand function on Zoom, and if maybe one of our moderators, Laura or Ron, if you see someone raise a hand, feel free to also just be like, oh, hey, Heather, because sometimes I get away with myself there. But what I hope to, we'll talk about our topic of the evening, which is ways to stand out as a professional in the age of AI. I think it's a very hot topic right now. I don't know that there's anyone who isn't asking me today, how should I be using AI? How do I use it to be better? So I hope that tonight's presentation, you can take away a couple of learning lessons from this. So our agenda for tonight, you'll meet me and the team. We'll talk about defining your brand, some social media basics, some AI basics. We're going to play a game called Can You Spot the AI? We're going to talk about our best uses, our worst uses. I have a tools cheat sheet that is a huge cheat sheet of all of these different AI tools for you to explore. Some brief how-to examples, and then what's next. So after this presentation, what do you take away from it? Where do we go from here? All right, so hi, I'm Heather. Like I said, dropped my LinkedIn in the chat, but feel free to message me on LinkedIn. As Laura gave such a wonderful background of me, I don't know if I could give the same wonderful background of myself. This is Heather as a young fencer on the MIT fencing team. An interesting fact about myself is I was a walk-on to a Division I team. MIT, one of MIT's only Division I sports was fencing, and I set my
Wow.
eyes to it. I said, I gave up a lot of the sports that I loved to do in high school. I want to be a Division I athlete, and I want to make this real. So my coach was known at MIT for taking someone who had had very little experience and getting them to a high level. I got to fence Olympians. I got to regionals in New England, which, if you know anything about fencing, is extremely difficult. Like, literally, I'm going up against like bronze medalists in the Olympics to get there, sort of deal. So, if that tells you a little bit about my competitive spirit, that's me in a nutshell. This is also very young Heather at my laboratory bench. I think I was a junior or a senior when I took this picture, getting ready for grad school. This was a world-renowned lab that actually took me to India, took me to Japan, opened up a wide variety of research opportunities across the globe that were amazing culturally and just scientifically. Somewhere in the middle here, I made a switch. So went to grad school, economy crashed, things weren't looking great. I changed careers completely. So those of you that are in transition, been there. I went into pharmaceutical sales, which I had no formal training in, no background in whatsoever. And this is me with my President's Award at my company. I was ranked #1 in the company, got to go on the fancy trip, all that kind of fun stuff. I had a great time. But then I made another career transition. We'll talk about that later. So this is my why. That's my daughter, Marie, my son, Ethan, and my dog, Lucky. Fun fact about these two, they're both type 1 diabetics. So I've got two type 1 diabetics in my house also. And then this is my other why. This is my husband, Rob. We met here in the DC area. He is now a lieutenant colonel in the Army, active duty. And we have been lucky to be a little bit stationed here in this area, but we have had to do times of him being in South Carolina or the Middle East or other places. So we're going to try to ride this out to retirement, though, let me tell you. All right, meet Blue Hookie. So that's that second or third transition, depending on how you rank this, was me going from being a really top-ranked salesperson to saying peace to the corporate world, starting my own business, going into an agency with 2 business partners, and then later also saying goodbye to the 2 business partners, rebooting my brand and going out as a solopreneur, but not completely alone. So this is my amazing team. Some of these folks are other military spouses that weren't really given a great shot in the career market because before virtual work environments, employers didn't want to deal with you moving every year, right? Some of these are teachers who work part-time for me. In fact, 2 of them in this picture are English teachers in Culpeper. They are awesome. They always like to have some extra income. They are passionate about being teachers, but they don't make a lot of money. So they love working as a side hustle with Blue Hookie, and I love having them on the team. But this is my wonderful team of professional individuals, all of them individually trained by me, as well as bringing their own unique backgrounds and skill sets to the team. All right, so let's start with evaluating your goals. So all of us have different reasons for being on this meeting tonight. All of us have different goals in mind, whether we're trying to elevate our business brand or our professional brand. The question is, where do you want to fall on this, right? So one place to start is with industry thought leaders. So if there's a couple of people in your space where you think of, maybe it's the CEO of LinkedIn, or maybe it's, you follow Bezos or something of that nature. Think of some of the people that are thought leaders among your peer group, maybe way beyond your peer group, right? They're influencers in the sphere that they're in. Those are all good people to look at when evaluating how do you want to appear online? What are some things that they're talking about? It's also good people to interact with, right? They've got a lot of followers. When you comment on their posts, you get visibility. Put it down on paper, right? So take a look at, what do you want your professional and brand identity to be, right? And so when Laura talked about who Blue Hookie is, right, and she's talking about the quality of the service that we give to our clients, when she's talking about the being lead focused and data driven, right? These are all things that if you have, let's say 3 or 4 of these, those are your buckets, right? So when we're going to later talk about what are you going to post online, the question is, do you have some content that you can fill this bucket with that then starts to build your professional and brand identity online? Future outlook. So whether it's there's a news article that came out in your industry, whether it's your personal opinion, the future outlook is obviously something that people care about, right? So on this meeting, a lot of people are on this meeting, I think, because people see AI as being a part of that future. So that's an attractive thing that people are like, educate me on where I should be so that I'm not falling behind. And in fact, I'm staying ahead of the trends. Um, and then on top of that, if you've ever encountered some ageism in your career, ageism in your market, that future outlook is a good way of sending that message that you might think I'm too old to understand this, but I'm not, right? And these are my takes on it. This is what I think. So again, you're starting to dispel some of those myths that maybe someone might have when they're thinking about hiring you. Um, Peer feedback. So get some feedback from friends, colleagues. That's what your network is for, right? So I go, hey, Laura, do you mind taking a look at my LinkedIn and just giving me some feedback and telling me, is this the way I should present myself? Or do I really need to look at this again? And actually, probably, Laura, I do need your help with that. So we should talk offline about that as well. May have been a while since I've updated some parts of my LinkedIn. The professional feedback. So that's when you go, hey, I'm hiring Laura to help me with this redo, to give me some ideas, or you're working with Heather one-on-one and we're talking about what are your goals, where are you doing, what's your action plan. And I think the great thing about professional feedback, right, is that often can be holding you accountable too, right, getting you to meet those goals and moving forward with them. And then, of course, this goes back to your professional brand identity. Having those key messaging points and core values that you're communicating is important as well, too, right? So if you think about standing out in the audience of all of the professionals that are out there, right? Some of those key messaging points and core values can make you stand out. So I have a client in bariatric surgery who does something called oversewing. And so oversewing is he's taking extra time to re-sew all of his stitches that he's made on a patient, which means he has practically a 0 complication rate. And if you knew that about that bariatric surgery, that makes a huge difference, and that you would have almost a 0% complication rate if you go with a surgeon that does that, which not many do. Wow, that really makes you stand out, right? So it's those types of messaging and core values that can make you really stand out in a crowd of people. All right. So I have a screenshot from an interesting Instagram account called Tax for Millennials. Now, this one goes a little over the top, but my point here is that you have to have a strong brand identity, right? So now, whether this is you're taking the time and investment to get really nice branding photos of yourself as a professional, which both myself and Laura have done, actually, same photographer. Or does it mean that, like, okay, Tax for Millennials, you see this guy's branding, right? Like, it is very clear what he looks like. You'd notice him online. You'd probably recognize the post if you're following him because he has a very strong brand identity. Now, you can look at some of your competitors. So maybe he's your competitor. Maybe there's some other people online that are in your space, just to see, do they have soft tones to the colors? Do they have bright colors? Where would I fit in terms of how I want to feel and how I want my social media to feel? Followers. Okay. Organic versus black hat. And again, tell me if I'm going too fast here. So anytime you're like, whoa, what is black hat? I don't understand this. Feel free, but I'll try to also explain. So organic followers are, maybe I'm on Instagram or LinkedIn. I like somebody's post. I invite them to connect and we connect, right? Black hat is there's a bunch of tools. Some of them are AI, where it will run that for you. So it will start liking a whole bunch of posts that are on certain topics, certain hashtags. It'll also start connecting with a whole bunch of accounts. And the problem with Black Hat is, depending on the platform, you might get banned. So most of these platforms have rules about, like, how much can you automate of what you're doing. And if you automate too much, it goes, oh, wait a second, you're a bot. I'm getting you off my platform. And that can be very risky if you're a professional brand that's been working a while to build your presence. So you always have to be careful if you're using some of those tools. Make sure you vet those tools really well, and that you know that people aren't getting banned by using those tools. And I'm not saying that you can't use them, just be careful when using them. Engagement, interacting with other accounts. So one of the examples I gave, and actually I've done this before on some of these big influencers. So Tony Robbins, right? Who hasn't heard of Tony Robbins? I actually like a lot of the things that he posts on LinkedIn. And what I mean by like is I actually like the post, not like, click the like button. And then I comment on his post. So I try to engage with the, here's the premise that he's putting out, and then I make some sort of insightful comment. I will tell you that the weeks where I'm doing that on someone's account that has a lot of followers, I see my LinkedIn views go right through the roof, right? Maybe this is true for, there's a company that you're interviewing for and they've posted something interesting on social media. You're engaging with someone in HR or someone in their social media department when you're commenting on their posts, making an insightful comment. Again, that engagement can go a long way, right? As long as you're careful with what you're saying, of course. You don't necessarily want to be known at the company for saying something derogatory on their social media. Let's put it that way. Content. So when you're on these social media platforms, having a consistent content strategy, resharing people's content, commenting on content, co-promoting. So co-promoting might mean that, hey, like tonight, Laura and I did some co-promoting where I promoted this event. The organization promoted this event, right? Where we're engaged in our in-person network online. And then having an ad strategy. So if you're a business, having an ad strategy is a great way of getting above the fray. And it's also the only way to break the algorithm, meaning that there is an algorithm. It is difficult to get out of that algorithm on especially Facebook or Meta. And the only way to really do it is to put a little bit of ad spend behind it. But you don't have to do a ton of ad spend, just a little bit. I will pause for a minute in case anyone has questions as I transition to the next slide. Check the chat just to make sure. All right. Okay, the do's of social media. So I took a screenshot here. Guy Kowalski has a ton of followers. Now, what you see about this particular post here, right, is that there's a lot of views on this post in the feed. Now, what this means is that, of course, even though there's a few likes and comments, there's a lot of followers that see what he's posting. So the do's of social media are use all of the features of the platform. So if you've ever tried video on LinkedIn, there's a video. If you've ever tried some of the live streaming options on different platforms, there's lots of live streaming options. And the rumor is that those are now the preferred way of people communicating. So try these different features. If you've never tried them before, say, okay, you know what? I'm going to make it this week. I'm going to try one of the new features on LinkedIn or one of the new features on Instagram. Reach out to others on social media. Again, the whole concept behind social media is this idea that we're supposed to be engaging with each other. So putting a post out there and then maybe not tagging somebody or maybe not tagging a business or hashtags, it kind of just sits, right? It doesn't really do much. But when you engage with your network and you engage with other people, you get the best mileage out of it. Collaborate. So don't be afraid to collaborate with other people. I've done this with another networking group I'm in, where if I'm doing a one-to-one with someone in that networking group, I say, hey, would you mind at the end of our one-to-one, can we do just a short video where we're talking about something that intersects me and marketing and maybe you and careers, or me and marketing and you and bookkeeping? And then we just do a really short video where we're talking about it together. And then when I post it, I can tag both of us in the post. I can engage. And it's also interesting, right? Because maybe I'm talking about a different aspect of marketing that I don't usually talk about. Comment, follow, like. So those are obviously the ways that you grow your followings on any of these platforms. Celebrate others. I love when a client has a big momentous thing happen in their business, showing them support on a post, celebrating their wins. Same with maybe someone has transitioned jobs recently, gotten a promotion. Celebrating others is a great way of engaging with them, staying on their radar and top of mind. And it's kind of like being a good community member in the social media sphere. Celebrate you and be authentically you. So, as we talked about before, if you're thinking about your brand, who are you as a professional? Who do you want to build online? I really do encourage you though, it's got to be authentic, right? So if you're like, hey, that tax guy for millennials, he's really amped up all the time on the call and he's excited and I'm going to do this. But then someone meets you in person and they're like, whoa, that's weird because like she's really quiet in person. She's not really like amped up like that. Then you'll have a problem with the persona that you've created for social media is not the person that you are professionally. And you will find that that does have some negative implications, right? Where maybe you attract the wrong job or the wrong clientele and it just wasn't a match because that persona online is not the persona in person. So I do think that you have to be authentic. And this also goes with, hey, Heather, I'm not comfortable on video. If you're not comfortable on video, that's totally fine. That's not your personality. That's not where you want to be. And that's not where you want to shine. So I think that you also have to be okay with this idea that that's fine too, right? So be comfortable with what you're posting. Get help when you need it. So if there are really things that you feel like, hey, maybe I should take a class on this, or maybe I should reach out and just ask for someone's help and some tips and what they're doing, consider that a part of your networking, right? Like maybe you notice that Laura's just killing it on LinkedIn and you're like, hey, can we have like a one-on-one and you tell me a little bit about like how are you killing it on LinkedIn? What do you do, right? What's your secret sauce? Which is not to say you're going to do the same thing as Laura. It's just you're getting more data points to help you figure out what your plan is for social media. All right, the don'ts of social media. So this is an actual screen that warning that you get if you've ever worked in my space that your account has been disabled for violating our terms. I wish I could say I've never seen that sign before, but I have. I work in a couple spaces. One is plastic surgery and one is dispensaries where this can happen. Technically some banned content, technically some nudity, sorry guys. And yeah, you can see these. But number one is don't get banned. So be careful. There are banned hashtags and some of them are strange. Like you would not know that they're banned. The way you know is if you type a hashtag into Instagram or Facebook, it will not highlight so that it stays like, basically gray. So it won't highlight. Like for example, you can Google banned hashtags, but like depression, for example, is a banned hashtag, which I wouldn't necessarily think that that's banned. So again, there's some out there you just have to be careful of. And if you hit too many of these warning marks, you can see this like, hey, I'm sorry, we're kicking you off the platform. Don't pay for followers. So there are people who pay for followers. There are people who don't get banned for paying for followers. However, a lot of these platforms, as we talked about, have these automated AIs involved in them. And if Instagram, LinkedIn sees too much of that activity, they will think that you're a bot. They will know that you've hired some sort of software and they may actually kick you off the platform. So it's always a risk whenever you try to buy followers. Besides the fact that they're not going to be good followers, like it's either going to be accounts that someone has hacked or some really sketchy accounts. And we've seen that too, where it might not be content that you want to be associated with either. So there's other reasons why not to buy followers, and they don't engage with you. They're just vanity followers at that point. Don't take content from others. Now, I say this with an asterisk that you can take inspiration from others, right? But make sure it's not like, oh, I'm representing someone else's work as my own. I'm representing someone else's ideas as my own. Even though social media is this huge sphere of like, there's all kinds of content out there. It still might not paint you in the right light if you are basically ripping off ideas or content from other people. Don't use copyrighted materials. Technically, at this moment, there's not really a way for like, with the exception of HBO videos, which I've known someone to be banned for that, and Disney videos. They aren't really policing it too much on social media, but you just don't want to be in that sphere or space. Don't use banned hashtags. So again, going with the let's not get banned. You can also have something happen to you called being shadow banned, which is where you actually get banned, but you don't know it. No one can see your content anymore. That has actually happened to a real client in the plastic surgery space. Basically, if you click on any of the hashtags that they tagged, none of their posts appear anywhere. They've been shadow banned, so you don't know. Avoid banned or sensitive topics. So that's just a good policy of not being banned. Choose imagery carefully. So that might just mean, again, does that fit within the personal brand that you're building? And we'll talk about AI content in a minute here. And then no clickbait, please. Now, what clickbait to me means is that it's one of those articles where you have to click through 100 times and you're like, where's the point? Where's the photo that you showed me? It's like I've been to 100 of these. But what real good clickbait is it's got a catchy title, the link is real, and it has real good information. That's good clickbait, but none of the bad clickbait, please. We need less of that. All right, building followers is one of our topics. So this depends on the platform. White hat, which means these are the appropriate ways to build. These are the ways that are the organic ways to build. Content, right? So again, having consistent content, good content, that'll get you more followers. Adding more people on any of these platforms, commenting on other people's posts and engaging on the platform, liking other people's posts, and ads are all considered white hat ways of growing your followers. Black hat is buying them or automating them. And I call it semi-black hat because, again, there's that caveat that like you can actually do this in a way that does save you time, but it doesn't get you banned from the platforms. And hence the AI tools we'll talk about for that. And then the more you post to Instagram, this is an example. The more you post to Instagram, the faster you grow your followers. So this is looking at less than 1 post a week, 1 to 6 posts a week, and 7 posts a week. Now, again, all of us being busy professionals, I don't necessarily expect one of you to post 7 times a week. But it just gives you an idea for, it is a concept that if you post more, you can get more followers this way as well too. All right, engagement. So the types of content that consumers want to engage with. As you can see, images is still fairly dominant on most of these platforms, with video close behind. So images and videos, although depending on the platform, especially if we're talking like TikTok, videos are just completely dominant, right? Similar class platforms and some of the engagement that you can get that's white hat. And again, white hat meaning you're not going to get banned. This is the organic way to do it. Followers means more engagement, right? More followers, more engagement. Content, so the more content you have, the more engagement you get. Commenting, liking, and ads. So sounds about right from the last one we talked about too. But black hat is automating some of this, right? So maybe it's automating some of your posts. Maybe it's automating some of your engagement on that content or getting people to engage. There are some technologies out there where, again, there are zombie accounts, and those zombie accounts are owned by a platform, and those zombie accounts will attack your post and start writing things or liking it. And none of the comments make any sense whatsoever, right? Which is what zombie accounts do. But it shows that there's lots of engagement, even though the engagement doesn't really, it's not high quality, it doesn't necessarily make sense. But these are just a few ideas for the types of posts you can put out there. Like live video, GIFs, GIFs might be funny or there's something in there, polls, Q&As. So there's a lot of different engagement that you can do. All right. Okay, taking a little pause, we're going to dive into a brief history of AI, but does anyone have any questions before we dive in? Excellent. Okay, so for those of you that don't necessarily know too much about the history of AI, AI has been around for a very long time, right? Very, very long time. I was at MIT when they built the Artificial Intelligence Center at MIT. So that was over 20 years ago. So over 20 years ago, they were starting to make this a huge priority. But it didn't start out the way it's going right now. So it was typically used for like back end stuff, right? So fraud detection, right? Banks, when you got that alert about your credit card and that one transaction that doesn't make sense. Search algorithms. So Google was using a lot of these AI technologies back in the day. Supply chain management, right? So Amazon's trying to figure out how to get the most amount of packages from A to B. Where do they need to put a new warehouse? All of that, right? So a lot of us were not necessarily right away impacted by AI, but it was, impacting our lives in many ways. Second generation was data about humans. We were the products on the internet. So this is social media, ads, all sorts of, systems trying to predict our buying behaviors, trying to predict how we would react to things. And some of this was a positive thing, some of this was a negative thing if you were reading headlines, right? Where um, sometimes, and this is true of AI, and in some of the studies I've been doing with AI can go one of two ways, which is it has a positive effect, meaning AKA we're getting better returns on investment from our ad spend, or it can have a negative effect, which is that I'm feeding maybe negative information to people online, and that's actually causing issues, right, on a system. So you can have AI go both the right direction you were thinking it was going to go, and then you can have it go the other direction, which is not what you were predicting it to do. And then we have kind of up to today as we're getting closer. So modern machine learning, speech recognition, right? Do you remember when you used to have to, if you needed to use your phone to like write a text message, and it was the worst ever. I mean, it was like it would get every word wrong. And you're like, I don't even know why I tried to write a text message with this technology. It's terrible, right? This had computer vision. So, for a lot of the medical practitioners that I know, it would help them with translation of their notes. It would help them with like translating documents, right? Reading documents really quickly. Those were all kind of like leading us up to today, which ChatGPT sort of just suddenly broke the mold with regards to like understanding language. And kind of the sky's the limit. But I think where we are today, we have to be really careful with some of the technologies we're using. So game time, if everybody's ready for the game. If anyone remembers Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader? Love that show. So good. You're like, how did you not get that? Under a lot of pressure, but okay, so are you smarter than an AI? I'm going to show you some examples of possibly human written, possibly AI written, and AI generated content. And then if you can, we'll have a poll pop up, and please vote in that poll if you can pick which one is AI versus which one is human. All right, so first example is a written example. Email. Hi, John. How does your schedule look this week or next to discuss your marketing? Hi, John. I hope this email finds you well. As we approach the last quarter of the year, I wanted to touch base with you regarding our marketing strategies and discuss potential initiatives to ensure a strong finish to 2023. Which one, A or B? And vote for the one that you think is the AI written content, please. Oh, and it looks like we have all the choices. Just pick number one. Perfect. All right, looks like we have a winner. 65. Oh yeah, and the poll. 65% of you picked B as the AI written content. Thank you. Yay. B is the AI written content. All right, let's go to our next example, which is an image example. So which one is AI? Image A or image B? Pick the AI. All right, polls are open. All right, pick the AI. Which one is AI, A or B? All right. All right. So most people picked B. So B is actually the actual real image of my clients and their practice. So A is the AI image. And this one's actually one that we're sharing in our research study that's going to be coming out soon with the University of Richmond. All right, let's pick the AI. One last chance. Which one of these is written by a human? Which one of these is written by AI? Did you know that AI can hurt rather than help your marketing? Too much of a good thing is not always a good thing, but Blue Hookie's team of marketing professionals can direct your AI usage to benefit you and get you the results you are looking for. Lots of hashtags. Discover the potential pitfalls of AI in marketing. Not all AI is created equal, and too much of a good thing can be counterproductive. Fortunately, our expert marketing team at Blue Hookie knows how to harness AI strategically to ensure it enhances your efforts and delivers the results you desire. Let us guide you through the nuances of effective AI utilization for optimal outcomes. So which one was written by a human and which one was AI? And for the poll purposes, vote for the one that was written by AI. All right, here we go. People are weighing in. I love it. Which one is the AI? All right. And yes, those of you that picked B are correct. That one was the AI written content. Now, the next part of this is how did you spot the AI, right? And I've developed a keen sensor for AI on the internet. And these are some of the things I look for when I'm thinking, did somebody have this written by an AI? One is awkward phrasing. So maybe it's a word or two that you're like, those two words I wouldn't have put together, right? Maybe it's sort of, I like to joke that it sounds like your cousin that likes to go to Renaissance fairs. Occasionally it just sounds like he's speaking in Old English. And you're like, that's kind of weird. That's a different way to say that, right? So overly formal in that case, right? Overly informal. So maybe it's just like, hey guys, but that one, usually it's overly formal instead of informal, but it just is inappropriate, right? It doesn't sound quite right. Inappropriate emojis, it loves emojis. ChatGPT is like, let me just throw some emojis in there for you. Let me just sprinkle it everywhere. Boom, bam, like Emerald Lagasse, you've got emojis. Too wordy, Photoshop feel, lack of voice, not personalized, weird punctuation. It always likes to do this whole like, let me do a bullet point where it doesn't really make sense and then a semicolon and you're like, that's weird. Like, that's not how I would punctuate that. So those are all things that you might have seen and you kind of have that like little spidey sense that's going like, I think this is AI. Well, those are some of the ways in which, yes, your spidey sense might go off when you see AI. One of the points I want to make before we dive into the tools and how you can use AI is that for any brand, whether you're a professional business or an individual, trust is something that is so hard to cultivate online and in your profession, right? And trust drives growth is the point of this particular example. So this is the percentage of people who say that they are more likely to buy more from brands that they fully trust versus ones that they don't, right? So if they fully trust a brand, they're more likely to recommend it to others, display it on their person or in their home, and talk about it, right? And there have been numerous examples of where big brands maybe make a mistake. They make a mistake online, and they lose a lot of trust almost immediately with their audience. It's usually not that dramatic though, but again, that trust that you've built up over years can be eroded away fairly quickly depending on what you've done, right? And again, this is saying that they'll advocate for that brand, that they'll purchase from that brand, they'll stay loyal to that brand, and they'll engage with that brand if they trust it, right? So something to keep in mind when you're building your brand online. The second part of this equation is what's called brand authenticity. So do you have continuity in what you post online? Do you have credibility, right? And do you have character? So again, when we're talking about you're building your online brand, those are three areas where you can work that into your online personal brand where you're trying to build that online. Okay, so how does AI fit into this whole conversation, right? So we have, how do you post on social media? What should you be posting? Building your brand. So here are the best uses of AI right now. Idea generation. So ChatGPT is wonderful. If I go to ChatGPT and I say, hey, ChatGPT, put together a PowerPoint presentation on AI. I might have asked it to do that for this presentation. Now, ChatGPT might come up with some pretty crazy, weird ideas, but they actually can come up with some good ideas. So if you're experiencing writer's block, which a lot of people tell me that they have this problem with social media, where they go to LinkedIn, they're on their computer and then stop. Where do I go? What do I say? I don't know, right? So wonderful use of AI is idea generation. Ask ChatGPT to what types of posts should you put as a financial advisor, right? Boom, it gives you 4 ideas right away. Helps you get out of that writer's block, helps you get out of your head. Utilizing data. So ChatGPT can be really good. Like if I saw an article I really thought was neat or a point that I thought was interesting, put it in there, have it redigest it and give you some data points or some new data points. Think of it in a different way. AI is great with analyzing data. And now we're not talking about ChatGPT, other types of AI. Optimizing delivery. So like AI can tell you, hey, your audience is online at 8 o'clock at night. I'm going to make sure that this is at front and center when they're online. reaching the right audience. So if you're running ads, AI can be great with trying to find that audience who's engaging with it. And there's going to be a caveat here in a moment, and then serving it to them, right? Creating alternatives. So again, if you're facing writer's block or you're looking for some other ideas, think of it as your virtual idea buddy, right? So like what we might do in a conversation, you could do with ChatGPT, just online going back and forth, right? Creating alternatives, spotting weaknesses. So for example, maybe I've put 5 bullet points of this is what I think my presentation should be on. What am I missing? You could find out, okay, I'm missing a couple more points that I probably should include. And then improving your creative. So maybe you got part of the way there and you're like, I just don't know how to end this. I don't know how to wrap it up. You can get some ideas for how to improve some of the creative that you've already generated as well. And so it's a collaboration of sorts that you're doing. Worst uses of AI in marketing. I use this image because I feel like she's kind of like this evil AI lady. I don't know, but unmonitored generation. So if let's say there's a tool out there that's like, look, Heather, I will post on LinkedIn 5 times a day for you. You never have to read these posts and I'll do it all for you. Yeah, that's going to be bad. That's not going to be good. Unmonitored means that like you're not editing it, you're not catching what it is. And depending on your profession, you actually might put yourself in hot water, right? Because we're all responsible for the things that we say online. And AI is great with getting reactions out of people, but that's not sometimes what you want, right? So it might be posting something controversial. It might be posting something that's just blatantly wrong, which is why people are engaging with it, right? So that's something to always be careful of. Unedited content is the same. So having content generated and not checking it absolutely could have wrong facts. I don't know if everyone saw the headline article about, was it a Supreme Court case that had cases cited by ChatGPT in the submission that didn't exist? Oh, that's not a good look for a lawyer, right? Ads without monitoring. So this same concept can happen with ads where, guess what? I've seen, and we're talking major brands, and I'm going to call them out. I've seen Maybelline and I've seen Microsoft ads where it was all negative comments about the AI they were using or the animation they were using in the ad. It was not, hey, I'm going to buy your product. And so you have to be very careful that you monitor ads because the algorithm that is involved in that ad can actually get you exactly what you were looking for. Lots of engagement in exactly what you weren't hoping for, negative engagement. Chatbots. So a lot of people have on their websites now chatbots. I don't know if you've ever tried one of those that are AI. It is the most frustrating experience. You're like, I'm talking to a wall right now. You're not responding to me. You're not listening to my questions. Automating emails. So as you can see from some of the content that was generated in this presentation, if it doesn't sound like you and it's not authentically you, then again, you're running into issues where people are like, that's not Heather responding to my email. Oh, great. She's got some sort of email bot going on for her. Ooh, I see an interesting question in the chat, which I'll come back to. Automating emails, website content, and again, everything you put out there about your professional brand, or like maybe this is your blogging platform, it's you, right? So if it doesn't represent you well, it's not great to use. Social media, again, I think unedited being the caveat here. You want to be careful about what you're putting on social media, and then customer interactions, because if it's not the way you want your brand to be perceived, then you have to think about, is this worth it to have, fully functioning without any input from me on it, right? So I saw on this comment was from a little while ago, that AI whitewashed the photo. Is that a widespread problem? Yes, that was a huge problem in our study. So, and I don't know, and actually there may be a follow-up study because of specifically what happened in the images, but you can put restraints on AI. So the original image was the inspiration, and then it was told to generate. And you can tell it stay really close to the original image or don't. And when it didn't, it was like super young girls and really old white men. So yeah, there was definitely something going on there where, and it might have been because it was the medical field where it was pulling stock photos, which this is the same issue I have with stock photos too, is it's not very diverse in general. So we might do a follow-up study on that, but it's a well-known issue with AI that unfortunately AI sometimes takes the worst of either the internet, society, et cetera, and then it amplifies it. So they do actually, in modern AI theory, have to put restrictions to make sure that AI is not going too far off the rails. Yeah, it's not good. That's also why you have to be careful with AI. You don't know where it's going, right? And that may not be a good look for you professionally, right? So we have to be careful. Okay, this is the $1,000,000 question and why I'm sure most of the people are on this call. This is a wonderful graphical representation of the different AI technologies that are out there. And you can see there's a lot of them. So there's ones in audio, design, images, video, text, infrastructure, services, research, etc. So I will drop in just a moment a way for you to reach out to me, and I can send you the link to this where you can download and see all these different technologies and the full listing of these technologies, where feel free to you play around, like look at the technologies. After this presentation, I hope that you will walk away with understanding how the best ways to implement, right? So technology is one of those things where it's like, it's great that we have this technology, but how do I use it in a way that's going to benefit me the most? Or how do I recognize that this AI technology is not what I was looking for? I'm looking for something else, right? So hopefully this presentation gives you a little bit of an idea when you start to look at all of these different AIs that are out there, which ones can really benefit you versus which ones might be too harmful for what they do. All right, so we'll jump into LinkedIn and Facebook essentials. So for anyone who has questions on, okay, where do I get started? What do I do? What do I post? These are the essentials for how to get started. So make sure you have a little bit of a theme to the post that you're doing. So in this case, I am featuring one of the CEO and founders of Ellevest, which is a financial company. And you can see she's posting about Happy International Women's Day. Here's the Ellevest community where healthy money habits, start investing, paying off debt, etc. Right? So obviously this is her POV. You see she has a nice photo that matches the branding of her company, all of that. You see that she has a short commentary on this. She has some hashtags. And we've got one emoji. This is before Chat GPT got on here. So I would say this is not Chat GPT generated. And then she's tagging her organization that she's writing about, but this might be true if you're sharing an article from Forbes or something of that nature. You can always reshare it from your organization. In this case, she's sharing it directly, but she can also share this from Ellevest's social media account as well. And then invite followers to connect and join groups is some basics for both LinkedIn and Facebook. I group them together because the posts are very similar, the post structures are very similar, and then the groups and how you interact with groups on both of them are similar. All right, Instagram essentials. Okay, I really like this personal branding that this Instagrammer does. So this is Delane, the money coach, and you can see she's got a nice kind of feminine green to her page. All of her posts have a cohesive brand. Instagram's a little different in its image or video forward. Pick your tiles means that because it tiles in 3, oftentimes people will have a theme to each column in their tile. So maybe she has on her first tile, this is going to be some feedback or testimonials. Maybe in her middle column it's educational videos, and maybe in her last column it's her podcast videos. Now you don't have to stick to that, but I find sometimes that helps you with idea generation for Instagram, because then you're like, oh, what's today? Oh, today's a testimonial tile, right? Those themes can help you stay themed to your brand as well too. So if you had 3 buckets of I want to communicate these 3 things about myself professionally, those tiles can help you stay on a theme as well too. Reels versus posts versus stories. Oh my. So depending on the generation, like the younger ones are like, hey, we gotta have lots of reels, it's gotta be fun. We gotta be dancing in the reels and doing something silly. If you're talking to maybe someone like me that's a little bit of an older millennial, I'm like, I like the posts, I like the stories, right? So all these different features you can play around with. Again, stay true to your brand, stay stay authentic to your voice. If you're not comfortable with doing funky reels, but you want to do a more educational reel, stick with that. Highlights. So what highlights are these little circular dots here at the top of Instagram. And you can see she has her podcast, she has the press, she has her course, she has her guide. You can highlight kind of different themes of the content that you've shared to your stories right at the top here. So like, let's say I want to see every post that she's made about her course. I can click on that and I'll see all of the stories that she's done about her course. So again, that can be a way to organize some of the things that you're doing. Your brand. So as you can see, she has a cohesive brand, but please do not think you have to go this far into creating a brand as a professional. She's obviously has a social media manager. She obviously is managing with brand colors and all of that. You do not need to do this to be active on social media. Again, stay true and authentic to who you are. If you are not the person that does cool little green graphics or is cute like Laura, that's totally fine. Not all of us can be Laura. In terms of tagging organizations or people, that's again, in each one of these posts, you have the opportunity to also tag other Instagram handles, to tag other people and put hashtags on it, just like on Facebook and Instagram, Facebook and LinkedIn. But I will say that it really drives engagement on Instagram. It's kind of the only way to navigate the platform. So there is a lot of power, which is why it's probably a must-have for this platform. And then invest in Linktree or Shopify. So Linktrees actually can be free. And what Linktree is that because you can't have, if I have individual posts on Instagram, I can't have links that are live. Instagram doesn't want you to leave the platform, so they don't allow that. The only link you're allowed is this one link in your bio here where she has Invest for Independence. So what Linktree does is it allows you to share more than just one link. So let's say you're sharing a blog article, you can put it in your Linktree. Let's say you're sharing your YouTube page, you can put it in your Linktree. And then whenever someone clicks on that link, they get not just one link for you, they get all your links. So it's almost like a mini website for Instagram. All right, we've got some questions here. Oh, Laura, I love your contribution there with the graphics in Canva. Excellent, excellent. Oh, and dropping the Linktree. Love it. Is having an Instagram account still relevant? I know a lot of folks who do Facebook, but on Instagram. What say you? Oh, it does depend on your audience, right? So, part of what you build your brand originally is thinking about where is my audience and how do I reach them? I will say I did some ad testing recently in the DC area to see what are the audiences, and I was a little surprised. So, shocking. Meta kind of, the audience goes like this. So Meta has some younger users, but it actually is mostly kind of 45 plus on Meta, or I'm sorry, on Facebook. The one that surprised me the most was TikTok. TikTok actually does have a lot of young users, but it has actually a peak around 40, 45. So there's a lot of kind of more middle-aged folks on TikTok, which I was not expecting at all. And then Instagram does actually skew a little bit younger than I was thinking it was. But it does have, so it has some young users, not quite as much as TikTok and Snapchat. But then it peters out probably around 40. So like your peak there is like the 30s and the 40s are on Instagram. And then female versus male, most of the platforms were pretty even, female versus male. There wasn't a huge gap. I will say that you will find that men tend to engage less on some of these platforms. They tend to be a little bit more lurkers. So they might not be commenting or liking, but they're watching and they're consuming. So don't think that only women exist on any of these platforms. And in fact, my two former business partners were both Instagram users, heavy Instagram users. So I think again, it depends on who you're reaching, and it also depends on your topics, right? So I would typically say, hey, money topics are hard to talk about on Instagram because you've got to have nice graphics and this, that, and the other. But actually, she's slaying it as a money coach on Instagram. Like, so, again, it might be more about like if you're comfortable on that platform as well, too, if that should be a platform that you focus on, or you're like, you know what, I'm more comfortable on Meta, I'm more comfortable on LinkedIn. That's where I prefer to spend my time. Because I think success in any of these is about your comfortability, your comfort level with each one of these platforms, and understanding that you don't have to be comfortable with all of them. I added YouTube into this presentation because YouTube YouTube is actually the second largest search engine on the internet. It is owned by Google. So that's all you need to know about YouTube. I pulled this page, His Money, Her Money, because I actually love the way they do their branding. And I don't think that everyone knows that you can brand your YouTube page really well. These are obviously people that do actually probably make ad money off of their YouTube account. So makes sense that they invest in it. YouTube, you want to pick interesting topics, varied length of videos. So now you can do both shorts on YouTube as well as longer how-to videos. SEO titles, descriptions, those actually all matter. So I describe to people Google is dumb. It's still dumb. So we have to really force feed it. Like, what is this video about? What is this article about? And so if you look at someone who has a page like this, they actually have a lot of content. And you can look, they've optimized their titles, right? 10 money habits that will keep you broke, 5 money talks every couple needs to have. These are all like very well SEO'd so that they show up on Google, on YouTube when you're searching for these topics. Playlist themes. So depending on, again, if you're building a brand, you might have 3 themes or 4 themes, and each one of those playlists goes towards one of those themes you're working on. So maybe it's like money talks is one topic. Getting out of debt is another topic. Being a millionaire is another topic. And so then if someone's like, look, I want to watch all of the videos about what it takes to become a millionaire, let's do this. Or I want to watch all the videos about what it takes to get out of debt, let's do this, right? It makes it so that as you build your video content, it's easy to navigate what topics you're talking about in the different videos. Collaborate. So you can see on their page, they are collaborating. So like they have a collaboration video with Dave Ramsey. Wow. That is for real a collaboration right there. So, you know, even the biggest influencers are collaborating with other influencers. This is something that they do too. And like I said, I do this with my other networking group where we collaborate on videos together to talk about different topics, to have a guest on the show, so to speak. And then branding. So, you know, again, I guarantee you that this account is thinking about what are they posting? What does their audience want to see? Who are they in the vast internet space, right? And it's pretty clear when you look at their page what their brand is and who they are, right? His and Her Money, that's their brand. And then links to resources. So as you can see in this screenshot, they have tons of links to different resources in this video that is meant to convert, right? Or again, you're sharing information with people. All right, we have one more question is, what do you think of Reddit? So Reddit is a great platform that has a lot of SEO value, and there are some very loyal users of that platform. So I am on Reddit. My brand is on Reddit. But you have to be careful about how you interact on Reddit. And what I just mean by that is, again, you have to be authentic. I think if you go onto any of these platforms and yeah, don't be fake, it's going to be a problem. Don't self-promote, you're going to have a problem, right? So you do have to be really careful about how you interact and that you add value and you're not there to just self-promote. And that's true of any of these platforms. If it's all about self-promote, I think on other platforms you might not get as much hate. On Reddit, you will definitely get hate. So you do have to be careful of not triggering someone being like, you're just all about you and like, you know, so what, right? So yeah, definitely be careful on Reddit. You have to tread lightly as a brand and again, be a good member of the community, right? It's not just about take in communities. It's about, you know, giving and being a part of the community and being a part of the discussion. So these are some content ideas that go for any of these platforms. So, and again, if you're getting into writer's block, this can help you get out of that writer's block. Comment and reshare relevant news articles. I've had a friend on LinkedIn somehow get on the radar of one of the LinkedIn editors, and he will comment on like when the jobs reports were coming out and things like that, he'd make an insightful comment. She would grab his post and pull him into a LinkedIn article. And then it would alert me that he had been featured in a LinkedIn news article. And I kept getting these and I'm like, what's going on, John? Like, you're suddenly like LinkedIn famous. He's like, I don't know what happened. I just somehow she like liked what I said. And then I keep getting pulled into articles. So that actually can get you featured in articles on LinkedIn when you're being insightful when you're sharing your take, and it was featuring him with his title, with his company on that. But of course, then the same goes true for like, you got to be careful if you're also representing a certain company because you're working for them. You just want to make sure whatever you're sharing is like, it's kosher, that your other company would be like, oh, okay, that's not a problem. You're not representing Amazon in a bad way or something, right? Talk about your professional experiences and share photos. Um, be you, right? Like a lot of people in your network might not know your history, right? So like Laura gave you a great history of me before I jumped on the call. I showed you some photos. I think I reshared recently a photo from my internship in India, like a ridiculously long time ago. And a lot of people might just be like, they forgot I was a researcher once upon a time. They forgot I went to India and worked for a pharmaceutical company. And it just like, they go, oh, that's right. How cool. The next time I talk to Heather, I got to ask her, like, how was that or whatever. It just shares about you in a little bit more of a personal light, but you're tying it back to your profession, right? So like maybe you have that cool photo of like, did you know I was a disc jockey in DC for a while, and here's a picture of me with like Ricky Martin or something. Like that would be fun. Like everybody would be like, oh, that's so cool. So feel free, like again, it's on these networks, it is fair game to the world to be more open about who you are, your professional experiences, and it adds to them feeling like they have that strong connection to you. Share your wins. This is one that everyone feels so uncomfortable about, and I'm like, do not feel uncomfortable about this, please. Like if you've won an award, maybe it's a memory having won an award, that is the number one way to get likes. So I think one of my clients today shared he did his 500th, and this was actually a while ago. He's almost on the way to 600th robotic surgery that he's completed, and it's exploding. Like all of his followers are like, I'm so glad to be one of your 500. Da, 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 da. I mean, it is, and again, he's a very humble person. This is not necessarily something that he would want, but I'm like, you have to. Like people want to celebrate you. People want to be there for you. So share your perspective. So again, you're uniquely you, right? Your professional experiences, what you've done is not what other people will know, right? So make sure that you share your perspective. Tips and hacks. So maybe you have just some short tips about, your particular profession. Maybe you have some hacks, right? The people love that stuff. They eat it up all day long. Like give them 3 tips, give them 3 hacks, and they're like, I'm happy. This is wonderful. Nancy asked, how about being vulnerable? Absolutely. Yes. We need more vulnerability. Yes. I think that it's equally, as long as, of course, like, for example, I might not be able to be vulnerable about my business separation because there are actually like documents that I might get in trouble depending on what I say, right? So as long as you're being vulnerable in a way that like it's not going to get you in hot water from a past employer or something of that nature, I think it's equally easy. And you're also asking to engage your network, right? So maybe it is you're asking for help with a transition, or you're asking for help with feedback or something of that nature. A lot of times those are really popular posts as well too, because people relate to it. They're like, I didn't want to say it, but I feel the same way, right? And also don't feel bad if you put yourself out there and then maybe not a ton of people engage with it either. That happens, right? Social media is definitely one of those places where like sometimes people feel comfortable engaging on certain topics and sometimes they don't. They might message you instead, which is how you'll see support on some of those posts, right? Where they're like, hey, I didn't want to comment on that one, but I want to tell you like I'm 100% in your court on this, right? Um, Digital privacy and sharing too much. So interesting fact about myself. I forgot to share this interesting fact about myself. I was at MIT when the Facebook started, and it was just us in Harvard, and it was very small. It was fully open. There was no privacy. It was meant to be like sort of a yearbook where it's like, here I am. Hi, I'm Heather. I'm course 7 at MIT, and I live in this dorm. For a very long time, there were no privacy settings on Facebook. There were no privacy settings on LinkedIn, none whatsoever. So I've always treated all of these platforms as though something there could absolutely be leaked or out or whatever because they were initially. But I understand where if you jumped on the platforms when there was privacy settings, that you might treat it more like, oh, well, I could hide some of this or whatever. Yes, I would definitely say be careful about anything you say on these platforms in message or on the platforms, because of course you could pull it up in a court case, you could pull it up, your interviewee could pull it up and not like something that you've posted. So it's always, I think of it as your five best friends and your three enemies will all see this post. And the question is, what did they take away from it? Did they find that thing that they wanted to grab and say, yes, finally, I got Heather? Don't share that. That's for sure. The interesting part about that is I actually had a friend at MIT who was stalked on Facebook because her dorm was listed. So I did see early on examples. Oh, and then there were a couple of us that found out our boyfriends had girlfriends in other cities. So there were some early lessons in the days of social media that was like, oh, this is the implications here is it's sometimes there's more transparency, but sometimes there's too much transparency. So yeah, always be careful about what you're sharing and how you're sharing it. Interesting research. So again, if you see something that like maybe it's a little bit geekier, that's okay. You can be geeky on these platforms. Share something that maybe other people are like, I don't understand what this says, right? And you're the key to unlocking that piece of understanding for them about an article that otherwise they wouldn't read. Find opportunities to collaborate with your friends, with your network, with brands. So I'm in a business seminar series right now with a system called EOS, and Wells Fargo sponsored it, and the Women in Business Council also sponsored it. And I tagged both of those brands and said, hey, thank you so much for selecting me to be in this cohort. And that post exploded. I got like 3,000 views of that post. But Wells Fargo's got like 1 million plus, followers. Same with the other brands. It just shows you that when you collaborate with bigger brands, you'll get, and especially depending on the message, you'll get a lot of traction on those types of posts. And then if you get stuck, ask AI. AI is a great way to get stuck. Okay, we've got a couple more questions. Let's see. Is there a risk of data proprietary info on AI shared or applied to other users on the same platform? So this is something that I do think is an actual issue with AI, is it takes other people's ideas and it's redigesting them. And the question is, would it pass your, college professor's test of like, is this actually unique thoughts, or are these thoughts that you've ripped off from somebody else? But then, vice versa, is it ripping your data when it's doing things? I would say, again, and actually I heard this in a different presentation, if something that you're using is free, you are the product, right? So if LinkedIn is free, you are giving your data to LinkedIn so that they can use you as a product for advertising, right? If Facebook is free, if Google is free, all of the information that you're putting into these platforms is the product that they're selling to somebody else. So I was like, oh, that's a wonderful thought. So yeah, I would say that these AI platforms will be taking data from different places. And as a business, if you're running a business that has IP, you do have to be careful of some of those. Are they going to rip my IP from my business sort of deal? So just like if you had certain gatekeepers in your business to make sure that someone isn't going to take your business and run with it, you probably have to gatekeep your AIs as well too, to make sure that they're not ripping things off that they shouldn't. An example of how to get feedback from AI. Yes, we can do that at the end. I'll do that. I'll show you an example. And then I'll show you how we can evolve it too, so that you can see how you get better responses from AI, because there's kind of the basic ones. And if you're just doing something quick and dirty, the basic is great. If you need something a little bit better than the quick and dirty, then there's ways to get the AI to produce better results for you. Okay, so key takeaways. Personify your brand. You are your brand. Whether it's your business or whether it's you as an individual, you are your brand. So personify it, own it. Be authentically you. So again, don't do anything on social media that's like, wow, that's weird. That's not something Heather would do in real life. Put your expertise to showcase. So again, talk about topics that you're passionate about. talk about ways in which you're digesting information online, news articles, all of that. Don't be afraid of short form video. You know, we all have a camera on our computers, on our phones. Just do a real quick, like, hey, I had an interesting conversation about, and I did this the other day, I had an interesting conversation with a client about branded versus unbranded traffic to their website. Branded means they're searching for you, they're searching for the brand. Unbranded means they don't know you and they're searching for the things that you do. And the problem is that you might, even as a big, healthy brand, not be getting enough unbranded traffic to your website. Short video, done, educating people on a topic, moving forward, right? Have a cohesive digital brand. So again, those buckets that you're going to be filling online, does this post add to your expertise? Does this post add to your trust? Does this post add to your brand? Making sure that it fits in there. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to have the pretty green colors everywhere, right? It just means that consistently you are your brand. Engage your network. So if that's not the biggest takeaway from here, go on LinkedIn and post and tag Wells Fargo and see what happens, right? Not that I know them at all, but join a community. So I've joined many communities, giving you some examples. I'm in the MIT alumni community. I'm in the MIT, I think there's a fencers group too on LinkedIn, which is weird, but the MIT fencing group. I'm in the Johns Hopkins alumni group. I'm on like an SEO professionals group. I'm on, you know, again, there's all these different ways in which you can kind of grow your network by joining some of these groups. Whether it's the topics that you talk about or it's the professional networks that you belong to. On Facebook, there's a lot of groups that are community oriented. So like the Nova Parents Association, the Social Collectives, the I Live in Burke group, I Live in Falls Church group. There's all kinds of groups on Facebook. And now not all the topics might interest you, not all the topics might be relevant at all, but I think Laura can tell you, I can tell you, even right before this call, I had someone like chat on my chat, which is a person chat on my website, say like, oh, I don't really have time for a call, just send me a quote, like whatever. And then she's like, actually just call me. And so I call her and she's like, oh yeah, I saw you in this group that people were recommending you. And so I really needed you to tell me what I'm supposed to do from an SEO perspective on my website. I'm like, oh, well, I can do that, you know? So you'd be surprised that I don't think this particular person, I have to look them up, but I don't think she actually posted. What she saw was another post where someone had tagged me and then reached out to me that way. So those community groups can be really powerful, even for someone like me, which I serve businesses, right? So those are community groups that really they're consumers, but some of the consumers are my customers too. So very, very helpful. Okay, we've got one more. Is it illegal to go to ChatGPT and ask, create a lecture in the style of Heather Pressler? I bet you, I wish I was ChatGPT famous. I don't think I'm ChatGPT famous. ChatGPT's been like, I don't have enough information on Heather to help you with this. But who knows? Maybe it'll give you, actually, I bet what it'll do if you do that, TED Talk. You should see if it'll write you a TED Talk. I bet it knows what a TED Talk is. And it does have a formulaic structure to it. So maybe it'll help you with that. How can we help? All right. So startups and individuals, happy to do one-on-ones to help you get started right. If you're looking to network in the industry too, happy to do networking with anybody. We help with expanded businesses that are expanding rapidly. So typically like, hey, I'm ready for the next step. And so I need to get marketing off my plate. I need it to be running at 3 times as much as I was doing before. I got to get this business up and running and profitable fast. And we do packages of marketing, sales, training, consulting, or both, depending on what you need. And then my QR code should be here somewhere. Here we go. All right, what's next? So you can do a couple of things. One is you can text me your email address at 617-519-1320, or you can message anybody in leadership here. So Laura, Ron, and I can get your email address to send you that AI marketing tools graphic. That QR code is also to schedule a one-on-one. So it pops up my calendar and you are happy to schedule a one-to-one with me to talk more about any of these topics. But I hope that this was insightful and helpful. And then, as promised, I will stop sharing my PowerPoint and we'll do some chat GPT together. How about that as a finale? And feel free to ask any questions while I'm pulling up chat GPT.
Heather, I have one question. I'm wondering down the road, as all these people become experts in AI and are they're all doing daily posts on 8 different platforms and automatically commenting on everybody else's posts, and will AI at some point collapse under the weight of its own popularity?
So I am also worried about that possibility, which is why, a good part of this presentation was about the warnings, right? With be careful of some of these automated activities and this, that, and the other, because if there becomes too much spam on these platforms, they will crack down and they will crack down hard, which means you could lose your accounts, you could be banned, this, that, and the other. And so you never know. Again, all of these platforms we do not own, right? My Facebook profile, I may have been on Facebook for over 20 years now. Wow. Coming up on 20 years on Facebook, everybody, all of that data can be gone like that. And in fact, it happened to my business partner. He had a side project, which is a website that was boxing videos, and he posted a HBO copyrighted video from 3 years prior. They were like, you posted copyrighted material, you're done. And did not respond to inquiries, did not respond to requests, deleted like 15 years of his data overnight. So you always have to remember that these platforms are not yours. You don't own your profile. You don't own any of the data on the platform. So we are at the whim of them. But I also think that the other danger with AI is that, would you want to go on LinkedIn anymore if like all you ever saw on LinkedIn was like, AI photos of Laura, AI written content by Laura, AI messages from Laura? You'd be like, no, I'm good. I'm being
Well,
spam botted by Laura 20 times a day. So if they are not already thinking about it, they know they don't want that kind of content. That being said, here's the weird elephant contradiction in the room, which is that so far what I've seen from AI generated content, some images, some written content, is that it performs really well. And so there's this balance. Again, it still needs to feel authentic. It still needs to resonate with people. But you have to be, I guess, really careful about how you're executing it, that it doesn't feel so fake that everybody involved is like, well, that obviously wasn't, generated. Okay, so we're in ChatGPT. ChatGPT gives us a lot of options here. It says, plan a trip, see the best of New York in 3 days. Well, thanks, ChatGPT. So if I ask ChatGPT, write a short summary for a presentation on AI uses in social media, it's a very short prompt that I'm giving it, right? So I'm not giving it a ton of information. And then it generates real quick. Okay, here's a AI-powered social media transforming engagement, content safety. This presentation explores the revolutionary impact of AI, and it has a content recommendation. They analyze user behavior, chat bots, sentiment analysis, ad targeting, content moderation, trend prediction, social listening. I look at this list and I go, that is not at all what I was thinking. So if you think, we touched on maybe some of these points in my presentation, but this is more like it's explaining to you like the different uses of AI rather than how you use it as a user. So let's say I go to Google and I say, best uses of AI in your social media marketing. So I might find some articles on here, like this one, the Marketing AI Institute. That's even a thing. Wow, interesting. 10 ways to use AI in social media strategy. Let's see if either of these articles are any good. This one's not terrible. So what if I told AI, all right, let's, this article is okay. We'll copy this article. I go to ChatGPT and I say, summarize the main points of this article to make it into a presentation. And then I copy the whole article. I put that into ChatGPT, and let's see what it comes up with. It's a long article. So, and you'll love this meta, right? I'm taking something human written, putting it in ChatGPT, and then I'm going to take something human out of ChatGPT again. So this is looking at, and this is the weird use of word, the profound impact of artificial intelligence. AI-powered insights, some integral to social media, enhancing our user experience, AI for authentic marketing. What did we talk about? Yep. Benefits of AI, top use cases in social media, and AI influencers. So this is much better, much closer to what I was thinking than what from the one line sentence that I fed it. So this is how you can kind of go back and forth and work with ChatGPT a little bit. The better your inputs, the better your outputs. Another kind of interesting one I've used for ChatGPT recently is I have a client who has tons of video content, like tons of video content. And the question was, is Heather going to watch every hour of all of these videos? Or is someone on my team going to watch every hour of all these videos to understand what the main points of these videos are to post them on social media? We took the transcripts from all of those videos, fed them into ChatGPT, and asked ChatGPT to write social media prompts for the videos. And we're talking like a very long transcript. And it actually did a very good job of summarizing the main points. You did have to edit it, and you did have to know when it was off target with what it was suggesting. But it helped digest a very large amount of information in a very short period of time. So those are, hopefully that's insightful as to how you can use ChatGPT a little bit better with some of your idea generation. From Dr. Lane, how do you learn effective prompts? So I think you have to play around a little bit with ChatGPT. There are also people who have written some articles about like, this is what you need to tell ChatGPT. I'm not really in the industry of wanting ChatGPT to write my high schoolers' essays, which might be where you really go deep into like, I'm more into, can I get a halfway decent output from ChatGPT that gets me out of my writer's funk? So I'm not really deep into the like, how do I get this to generate something that's actually really good? But there are people who do that. Now, that being said, I think, again, if I'm the intelligent person that's using one of these tools, there are absolutely telltale signs of ChatGPT, and you've got to remove them when you're trying to use it. And you have to replace those telltale signs with what's authentically you, right? So like when ChatGPT writes an essay and it goes, in conclusion, da 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 da, da, and I'm like, oh, that is ChatGPT. I didn't write in conclusion since I was like 9 years old, so. Oh gosh. If I tend to speak and write sometimes in awkward phrases, will others start believing you know what, Ron, that is a legitimate question actually, because to be frank, like in a world of neurodiversity, there are people who might have differences in language use and how they use language. And, that's a fair and valid point, that we may have people that, like, again, their written language is different, right? And so I think we do have to be careful of being like, Laura, why did you write that ChatGPT, email back to me, when that's just kind of who Laura is. But I think that goes back to like, is that authentic for their brand? So if you know that Laura is neurodiverse and like writes in a different fashion, right? That's what we expect. It's not that Laura is using ChatGPT. So it's more like, hey, I'm putting that puzzle together if I know what to expect from this person, and it's not a bot. It's just, Ron loves to speak in Shakespearean riddles to me over email. Crystal ball question: with big media companies, New York Times suing ChatGPT. Ooh. Will ChatGPT go the way of Napster? So I don't know if ChatGPT is going to ultimately go under because of copyrighted material. I think that their initial popularity, where it was really difficult for them to serve the population and the demand for their services, was what was sort of threatening to put them under. I don't know if you followed a little bit of the controversies around their CEO having a lot of conflicts of interest out there. they are trying to do what they think is the most ethical way of implementing AI on the internet. But I think that they've launched this field so far in advance that they're sort of making it up as they go. It's very possible, because of the world of technology, that ChatGPT just becomes irrelevant at some point, right? They are facing an uphill battle in the sense that, like, a lot of technologies are threatened by them. Google is threatened by them. Any of the social media platforms are threatened by them or similar technologies. So I think as a technology company, not having friends is not a good position to be in. But they do have people who also want to buy them and invest in them, and so who knows? We'll see what happens to them in the future. But at the very least, they've definitely vaulted this conversation almost overnight into a completely different realm that I think none of us ever thought about. Folks in academia will be more formal in their speech. Yes, that is definitely true. And again, it's all about context, right? The type of language that I use in a academic paper is going to be different than the type of language I use on social media, which is going to be different than the language I use in person, right? So it's all about context. And the question is, do some of these technologies do well with context? I think they struggle a little bit. I would be interested to know how ChatGPT functions in Japanese, if that's even a thing. If any of you know Japanese language, it's a really difficult language to master because it's steeped in their culture. And so even if you've studied Japanese for forever, you cannot be fluent, or you may not be fluent in Japanese. So like, maybe this works in English where we don't have as many cultural implications of our language, but in other languages, it may not be as easy to do natural language. So yeah. All right, I think we've tapped out on questions, but those were all really good questions and discussion. I love it. And also keep in mind that some of the questions you've been asking in chat might be interesting questions to ask on social media. Interesting way to put your perspective out there, right? So keep in mind that, like, all of that, you're naturally doing what we were talking about tonight, right? Like, asking interesting questions. You don't have to have an answer when you post an article on social media, right? You can just ask an interesting question and you might get a lot of interesting questions back too. You're welcome.
That was a great point. And if you want to save the chat to remember your creative genius tonight, if you hit those 3 dots in the chat window, you can click save chat and it will save after the Zoom meeting ends. So don't forget those good questions you had, because Heather's right. Sometimes the most popular posts are a random poll you do on LinkedIn, or, hey, like, everyone is now talking about AI. Do you think that this is going to happen? Will it be the next Napster? So excellent. Any final questions for Heather? Feel free to either write in the chat or raise your hand, or if there is no one talking, you can just unmute yourself as well.
And I'm just adding my contact info in there just in case someone joined after the very beginning, so you have my contact info in there as well too.
Right. Excellent. All right, last call. Questions, anyone? All right. If not, just as a reminder, we have an amazing session next week on ageism in the application process and how you can modernize your materials. So make sure to sign up for that on the 12th. Otherwise, a huge round of applause for Heather, because that was simply incredible. Incredible. And we will eventually be posting this to our YouTube once Gaddafi does his magic edits and all of that. So you will see this posted on YouTube. And based on the success, you may see this be an encore presentation later on, because it was truly that good. So Heather, thank you so much. And everyone here, thank you again. I hope to see you next week on the 12th, and have a great evening.
Thank you, everybody, for joining.